Good morning, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Uh, Thank you again for coming back, and nice to have you here. So, I have some news to share with you. Uh, First, a little bit updates on the situation in Tigray and border area with Amhara. Uh, it's very tough situation, still tense, heavy fighting still going on. Uh, there is no peace between Somalia and Afar too. The railway connecting Djibouti to Addis Ababa still blocked. So that's a major blow to Abiy Ahmed administration, especially because it imports about 95% of commodities through that road, so still blocked. And some reports also suggesting like TDF forces are entering Lalibela and some other cities. And the Abiy Ahmed administration is still bringing militia and use uh, across all regions to fight. So he is using, you know, or attempting to win this war by using teenagers as a firewood in this conflict. So uh, the OLF on the other uh, side in Oromia region also pushing out these Prosperity Party militias and defense forces from Oromia region. They are gaining ground. So Abiy Ahmed is squeezed in many fronts. Benishangul, the transportation issue, the economy issue, unemployment, international pressure. So global isolation, so many problems, but he's still there. He still refused to resign. So let's start with first with two tweets from State Department official account on July 29, 2021. So there's the pressure is still going on, still coming from the United States and other partners. Here we go. Negotiation, not military force, are the appropriate paths for resolving the parties' difference related to conflict in Ethiopia. All parties must ensure unhindered humanitarian access, electricity, telecommunications, and banking service must be restored in Tigray. So the word is changing now. Must be restored. Electricity, telecommunications, banking service must be restored in Tigray. This is from U.S. State Department. So strong words are coming. We don't know what will be the end. So the other tweet on the same day from U.S. State Department again. The parties to the conflict in Ethiopia should negotiate a ceasefire on an urgent basis without preconditions and enter into an inclusive political dialogue. Inflammatory rhetoric on either side is contrary to these goals. So these are a couple of tweets coming from the State Department. That's the pressure is still applying on the government, especially on the government side, to put back this service, end this conflict, end the bloodshed in the region. uh, the other one is Ethiopia also blaming the international community, claiming that they are silent on some issues. Ethiopia calls on the global community to put pressure on TPLF to stop attacks. The international community need to force TPLF to stop launching fresh attacks and hampering the flow of humanitarian aid, says Demeke Mekonnen, Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia. So Ethiopia is blaming TPLF or TDF for humanitarian aid hinder. Mr. Demeke said the TPLF has wasted the opportunity for peace under the ceasefire and choose to blocking humanitarian corridors and launched fresh attacks in Afar and Amhara regions. Mr. Demeke also expressed Ethiopia's concern over the failure of the international community to recognize the Ethiopia's government's effort to create a conducive environment for humanitarian support, peace, and stability in the region. So Ethiopia is blaming the global community on its silence. They are not praising Ethiopia for, the so-called unilateral ceasefire and other efforts they claim. On the other hand, they are bringing more forces and all the country's resources to fight the Tigray war, but they are claiming they are, respecting the ceasefire. So that's a lie. Mr. Demeke also said more than 200,000 people displaced in Amhara and Afar region due to this conflict. And he also opened up a door, for dialogue in the future government with all stakeholders after the new parliament or after they establish a new government. But I don't think that's believable. They lie. They are not trustworthy. US aid chief to travel to Ethiopia in diplomatic push on Tigray. US aid administrator Samantha Power, I think she's already there, heading to Ethiopia this week. A statement said Samantha Power will travel to Sudan and Ethiopia from coming Saturday to Wednesday in a fresh diplomatic push by President Joe Biden's administration amid fear of ethnic cleansing in the region and hopes for negotiations between the Ethiopian government and the Tigrayan forces to resolve the conflict. Power is due to meet Ethiopia's national security advisor and hopes to meet Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. Washington's hope she will secure unhindered humanitarian access to Tigray. The USA aid official warned there will be punitive measures as long as we are unable to access those populations. Washington is also concerned about reports of mass arrests, beatings, and torture of Tigrayans in custody in Addis Ababa, as well as some of Abiy Ahmed's rhetoric. 5.2 million people, more than 90% Tigrayan people, depend on outside assistance, including according to the United Nations. Martin Griffin, the new UN Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs, also arrived in Ethiopia on his first trip since taking the job. So he is also visiting Ethiopia. I think he's in Tigray already, meeting Tigrayan officials and witnesses, other residents, to make sure, the humanitarian access is open to the need, for the need. And the credit for this one is Reuters news agency. Eritrean refugees in Ethiopia capital protest insecurity at Tigray camps. Hundreds of Eritrean refugees protested in Ethiopian capital on Thursday, calling on the United Nations Refugee Agency to relocate friends and family who they say are trapped in two refugee camps by fighting in the Tigray region. For this one also, Reuters news agency. As I say, Ethiopia-Djibouti export and import line is still blocked. Ethiopia imports about 95% of its commodities through this road. Ethiopia's Somalia region blocked this railway line to express their anger over Afar's security forces' deadly attacks on their region. Minister Mark Garneau, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Canada, speaks today with Ethiopia's Deputy Prime Minister and the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Minister Garneau shared Canada's profound concern regarding the dire humanitarian crisis in Tigray and urged his counterpart to facilitate the immediate and unhindered access for all humanitarian assistance, workers, equipment, fuel, and cash before the humanitarian situation gets worse. He also repeated his call for Eritrean forces to withdraw immediately. Canada's Minister of Foreign Affairs also stressed that inclusive political dialogue offers the only path to sustainable peace and prosperity. Minister Garneau urged the government of Ethiopia to engage in dialogue with all national parties and regional parties to achieve a political solution to the crisis. So the pressure is still mounting. This is from the Canada government, uh, warning the Ethiopian government to solve the issue, the conflict, the war through diplomatic means, through the negotiation with all national and local parties, instead of bringing all its resources to fight this unnecessary war. Credit government of Canada Global Affairs website. The Ethiopian Federal Court, seeing the cases of Jawar Mohamed, Bakala Gerba, Hamza Borana or Hamza Adane, and Dejeni Tafa, has decided to see their cases in their absentia. These Oromo political prisoners refused to appear in person to their court's proceedings, citing the Ethiopian government's lack of respect for court decision and for rearresting Oromo politicians after they got their freedom of their crimes they were suspected of. Colonel Gamachu Ayana, Abdi Ragasa, and others were freed but snatched back by Abiy Ahmed undercover operatives and detained in illegal prison cells into undisclosed prison cells. So that's why Bakala Garba, Hamza Borana, Johar Mohamed, Abdi Ragasa, and others don't want to appear in person into the court because it's meaningless. The legal system is broken. The respect for judge's decision is lacking. So that's why it makes sense. To refuse and to waste their time appearing in person in court. So they can do whatever they want to do. The courts, they don't have teeth to enforce their decision. They can identify, have the hearing, have the witness. Then finally, when they say the accused is free, the police is waiting for them outside. The undercover is ordered by Abiy Ahmed to rearrest them, take them to an unknown location, and creating injustice and creating misery for families, friends, and for the individuals accused of the crime. So until the legal system is respected, their decision makes sense. Okay. Justice Department says Trump's tax return should be released. The Justice Department on Friday said the Treasury Department must turn over former President Trump's long-sought tax return to the to the Democratic-led House Ways and Means Committee. In a Friday memo from the Office of Legal Counsel, Acting General Attorney General Don Johnson said that the Treasury Department was required to defer to the Congressional Committee. Credit for this is the Hill. So during the Trump administration, the head of IRS, Munichi, refused to turn over his tax return. Now the Democrats are in the House. They have the legal right to see what is the secret in the Trump tax return, why he's refused, why he was fighting in the court. Is there something to hide? So there may be an opportunity now for the Democrat. Maybe after that, the American people the chance to see what is hiding there, what is the big thing, what the big issue, why he was refusing, why he was fighting to the teeth to not to give that tax return. So that is the news now. He will be forced to return the tax return to the Congress who are investigating his case. So we may see some big thing or maybe nothing there, we don't know. But I think it looks like there is something new maybe we have in the future. Protest in Iran. This is a press statement from U.S. Department on the protest in Iran. Protests in Iran that began with a water shortage owing to drought and governmental mismanagement and neglect in the Khuzestan province have now spread across various cities including Tehran, Karaj, and Tabriz. The Iranian people are now putting a spotlight not only on their unmet needs but also their unfulfilled aspiration for respect for human rights, rights to which individuals the world over are entitled. The Iranian people have a right to voice their frustration and hold their government accountable, but we have seen disturbing reports that security forces fired on protesters, resulting in multiple deaths. We condemn the use of violence against peaceful protesters. We support the rights of Iranians to peacefully assemble and express themselves without fear of violence and detention by security forces. We are also monitoring reports of internet slowdown in the region. We urge the Iranian government to allow its citizens to exercise their right to freedom of expression and to freely access information, including via internet. So that is a statement from U.S. State Department on the protesters and Iranian security forces killing of protesters on the freedom of expression, freedom of assembly. So the common thing you see is wherever there is an uprising against the government or protest against the government run to the communication lines and slow down the internet or shut down the internet. So that's the common thing between all the governments. Okay, this is credit for U.S. State Department website. Biden calls on states to offer $100 vaccine incentives. President Joe Biden on Thursday called on state and local governments to use funds from his $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan to offer $100 payment to individuals in order to incentivize coronavirus vaccination. The payment would be offered to newly vaccinated Americans to provide an extra incentive to boost vaccination rates, protect communities, and save lives. The Treasury Department said in an announcement Thursday afternoon. Treasury stands ready to give technical assistance to state and local governments so that they may use the funds effectively to support increased vaccination in their communities. And the Treasury will partner with the Department of Human and Health Service throughout this effort. It's said. Credit the Hill. So this is very, very encouraging uh, for those hesitant to get vaccinated, or those uh, who are confused by false conspiracy against uh, COVID-19 vaccine. So it might work. This $100 incentives for getting shot, it might help. I saw the same announcement today at Oromo soccer game, calling them to get vaccinated and get this $100, you know, at the same time. So it might be already working. So this is announced in Oromo language, also in Somalia language. In during the game, they set up the medical center right there, which is very good. Uh, so people may take advantage also who are unvaccinated. It's very encouraging, very good. Uh, I know the side effect is minimum. I took the required 2 shots. Nothing big happened. So, but I didn't get paid. So the announcement came late. So I think uh, these people should get this vaccination for their safety and for safety of their family and others. Plus, it's $100. So it's encouraging, very good news. Okay, I think that's all. That's all. I think that's all I have. Yes, that's all I have for the reading part. Uh, Thank you again for coming back and listening to me. I will share some videos, then finish up today's presentation. So I will start from United Nations update on Ethiopia, just part of, a little bit about Ethiopia, then I'll go to the other one. Let's listen. This is from the United Nations briefing.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the new briefing. On Ethiopia, our humanitarian colleagues tell us that Emergency Relief Coordinator Martin Griffiths has arrived today in the Tigray region on a UN humanitarian air service flight. He visited a site for internally displaced people and heard from people affected by the crisis. Mr. Griffiths was also briefed by humanitarian partners in Mekelle on the challenges they face. According to our humanitarian partners, an estimated 5.2 million people need assistance in Tigray. Also today, the UN Children's Fund said that it estimates that more than 100,000 children in Tigray could suffer from life-threatening severe acute malnutrition in the next 12 months. This is a tenfold increase compared to the average annual caseload. UNICEF warned that this malnutrition crisis is taking place amid extensive, systematic damage to the food, health, nutrition, water, and sanitation systems and services that children and their families depend on for their survival. The risk of disease outbreak is high, particularly in the overcrowded, unsanitary sites hosting displaced families. Turning to Afghanistan,
Okay,
in a statement.
So that's UN, update on the Tigray, and I already said Griffin arriving in Tigray to assess the situation and to make the humanitarian access to Tigray to facilitate, uh, you know, uh, make easy for those in need to get the aid. Okay, that's enough. And now about Somalians, women, and others protesting the Afar attack. Let's see.
Hundreds of people took to the streets in Jigjiga, capital of Ethiopia's Somali region, on Wednesday, angry about a deadly weekend attack on a Somali town. The local government says a militia from neighboring Afar was responsible and that hundreds of civilians were killed. It's the latest flare-up of a local boundary dispute and an example of the numerous ethnic tensions in Africa's second most populous country. Since taking office in 2018, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed has been trying to unify Ethiopia, a country of more than 80 ethnic groups. But he's struggled to contain a surge in violence as regions and ethnic groups vied for more power or settled old scores. The most deadly bloodshed has been in the Tigray region, where war broke out between the central government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front last November. That conflict has recently spread into Tigray's neighboring Amhara and Afar regions, threatening further destabilization. Back in Somali, the region's president, Mustafa Mohamed Omar, said on Wednesday that youths protesting Saturday's attack had blocked a vital road and rail trade artery. It links the capital Addis Ababa to the seaport of Djibouti, and according to a 2018 United Nations report, 95% of Ethiopia's imports are transported via that corridor. The reported blockage could not be independently verified. Abiy's office and authorities in Djibouti could not be immediately reached for comment.
Welcome to the new briefing.
Okay, that's the situation in Afar, between Afar and Somalia, and the blockade of the road between Djibouti and Addis Ababa. As I said, this is very vital transportation line for Ethiopia. As you heard on the video, it's 95% goods and other commodities arriving through this line. So very tough for Abiy Ahmed. Okay, the last one is about Palestinian-Israeli issue, and that will be the end for today. Let's see.
First of all, it's so good to see all of you, and I think it would be wonderful to see you more often and to see the life of the Security Council and the UN in general, to go back to what we are familiar with, so that you can ask your questions and we can respond to them. Having said that, I just want to say two quick comments, actually three. The first one, we are grateful to all those who spoke clearly, supporting the just cause of the Palestinian people, and those who gave details about the life of the Palestinian people under occupation, particularly in Jerusalem. In this connection, the presenters from outside the Security Council were very effective in portraying, the reality as they see it. Secondly, for someone who would come to you and speak about extremism, and he represent and was a minister in one of the most extremist rightist government in the history of the state of Israel, he does not qualify to speak about extremism because he represent one of the most radical extremist brands of politics, at least in the history of Israel. And also when he speaks about those who are fixated on the past and history, he wants to be future-oriented. He also disqualify on that term because he and those who like him, they always come and lecture you about the return after 2,000 years of the Israeli people. So that who is fixated on the past? We are fixated on the present to put an end to the tragedy of our people, and we are fixated on the future to end the occupation and to have the two-state solution as a reality on the ground where we can open new chapters for the two states and the two people. And we are grateful that the entirety of the Security Council is with us on that view. Finally, I know that decency and humanity was referred to by one of our colleagues in the Security Council with regard to bodies of people killed in action and kept by one side. Let me just tell you also that decency and humanity would require equal treatment because there are tens of bodies of Palestinians kept by the Israeli side for many years, refusing to give them to their families to have honorable, burial. So I just wanted to say these few things to you, and I wish you a happy month of August because many people take vacations.
When he talks here, he mentioned that in his future visit to Washington, the Israeli Prime Minister Bennett will talk with President Biden, about the possible peace process talks. Any comment about that?
I believe that in September, a number of leaders will be coming to New York, including leaders from our region and leaders from other parts of the world, including, I assume, President Biden. And I think that that would be a very conducive environment for meetings and discussions, and we are looking forward for a revival of a meaningful process that will lead to the end of occupation and to and the independence of the state of Palestine with East Jerusalem as its capital. This requires, in the meantime, a sustainable ceasefire and reconstruction of Gaza and helping on the humanitarian front our people on the Gaza Strip, forcing Israel to respect Security Council resolutions and international law, not to come and lecture the Security Council as to how it should conduct its business without respecting and abiding by the will of the Security Council. The Security Council does not operate according to the wishes of one country. It has its own mechanisms, its own agenda, and above all, it has its resolutions, which are part of the international law, and it is required from all of us, whether we like it or not, to honor and respect and implement these resolutions. As one ambassador said a few years ago in the Security Council resolutions are not an a la carte menu. You select what you like and you throw away what you don't like. All of them are binding. Every provisions of them are binding. This is the requirement of membership at the UN, and no one should be a member according to their standards and their wishes. It is under the standards and the wishes of the international community, and it is reflected in the Charter and the Rules of Procedure. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Hundreds of people took to the streets in Jigjiga,
So,
capital of Ethiopia's Somali region.
so there's Palestinian representatives expressing, you know, the common frustration and the hope for a two-state solution. And it's about the respect of UN Charter by all states. But many times the UN decides, Israel ignores, and no penalty for ignoring. And Israel claiming self-defense, using heavy weapons, expanding the territories deep into Palestinians without no penalty. I talked about this before. And this has been happening for generation after generation, no ending sight. Israel is not interested in the two-state solution. That will be an obstacle for their expansion. They don't want. They use anything to our, Palestine as the capital city of Palestine and Jerusalem. They already make it their capital, and embassies are moving into Jerusalem. So how these things will be resolved, very tough to watch. But the more we wait, Palestinians, the more they lose their land. That's the reality. And then nobody can stop Israel from that expansion attitude by military force or by the court. So that is a Middle East issue. So that will be the end for today's presentation. And to finish up, I think, I don't know, the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed putting the country into a catastrophe, anarchy, ungovernable, conflict everywhere, command post everywhere, hunger, famine, economic catastrophe, diplomatic isolation, leading under global pressure, war everywhere. How he feel, how this Prosperity Party people feel. They are in a different dream. It is impossible to have prosperity under all these conditions. Conflict everywhere, ethnic tension, people hate each other. Amara or something, Tigray, Amara, all this tension, nothing good under his leadership. Concerned citizens, media, and others called upon him to give a way for dialogue, reconciliation, give his power. But he is still there. He don't see all these challenges. The only thing, is he is with a different mentality, ignoring all these challenges and, going with his bodyguard to plant trees or opening ceremony of some other activities. This is a different kind of leadership. I know the leaders, when the people are happy, they will feel happy. When the people are in conflict, they feel the conflict, they feel the pain. But this guy, he is a different kind. When people are dying in the war, he is planting trees somewhere or exercising with his bodyguards. So this is a failure, a total failure under his leadership. He is under immense pressure from the United States, from Canada, from European Union. But he's still there. He don't see all these challenges. But the country is cutting, into pieces. People are dying. People are bleeding. People are hungry. This is a very tough situation. I don't know what he's waiting for. So that's a very tough situation. Nothing good about that country, really. Nothing good. Nothing good. He thinks he can survive by all these militias and all these youngsters he collected from poor families, so they can fight for him, for his seat, and he could be a king forever. So it will not work. It's not working. Chaos is already spreading. War is expanding. People are dying. I think Ethiopia needs immediate intervention to tell this guy, please leave. Your time is up. Your leadership is a failure. So that's all I have. I will be back with other updates and a comment. Thank you. Share my video, comment on my video, subscribe to my video. So long. Please get vaccinated. Those who are still waiting, those who are still believing in conspiracy theories, please vaccinate for your safety, for your friend, for your family, and get these $100 incentives. People outside the United States suffering, they are not getting the vaccination because they don't have, but we have. We are fortunate. So get it, get your $100 too. Thank you. So long, everyone.